And inside this cochlea, there are here cells, small cells. And when now sound wave is coming, they are bending. And this is what I like to explain you today a little bit, how we can mimic such kind of dynamics. You can transduce a mechanical wave into really electrical signal. And perhaps, this is a little bit the goal, emulate the hearing sense so that you perceive the environment. So, and when you just look to the numbers, what our hearing can do, then first of all, we can hear a large frequency range from 20 to 20 kilohertz. And the difference in resolution and tones which we can distinguish are 0.1 to 0.4%. And this by roughly 3,000 of these hair cells. Also, we have a very large dynamic range, typically given on this decibel scale. So we can hear 20 decibel is roughly the sound of leaves when they move, up to 140 decibel. This is when a firework explodes or something like that. This is also called the threshold of pain. Louder signals are not so good for our hearing. And when you see this, we have the same resolution from 10 in the power of 2 to 14. We talk about 12 orders of magnitude, where we can have this large resolution. And the last point is it is adaptivity. So this means when we just compare this with technical or technological systems which we have, which works relatively nice, then this system works always relatively nice when there is no noise. Yeah, for example, when you like to follow a discussion, now here in the room is calm, then there is no problem to do it. When you do it in the coffee break, yeah, and there is a lot of noise surrounding you, for you it's no problem, yeah, to just understand your discussion partner, even if the noise is very high, yeah. For hearing aids and things like that, this is a huge problem. Yeah? So means the noise level, when this noise level is increasing, recognition rate goes down. Yeah? And here's a simple example of one of my students, what he did some years ago in his master thesis, where he just calculating this was a speaker recognition, a recognition rate, and when you're increasing the noise, and this is the algorithm, then you can see this works relatively down. So the point is sound detection decreases significantly when the situation is when you're going in a more noisy environment. And the next point is, of course, this is what is also shown here. You can increase the networks to do this speak recognition. For example, with AI networks, there is a bunch of ideas on the market. However, here the problem, energy consumption in training and operation is one very important point. And what you also see is the problem stays, that AI systems also are not a big help to do speak recognition in nowadays. So the challenge here is, in the field, is separating the signal from the background noise. Yeah? Or to put this, what we are interested into in my lab is so how we can equal sensitive over such kind of extremely wide frequency and dynamic range the sound signal, even in a high noisy environment. So, and just to start it, how we can do this, or what is perhaps a pathway to solve the problem. It's of course good to compare what we do today in sound processing in our technology. This is shown here, and what the brain is doing. And there is a simple or a very clear difference. And sound detection in our ear, there is the sound detection and signal processing inseparably linked from each other. Now you cannot separate this both things from each other. Yeah, but in a standard, I would say, speak recognition system, you have something like a microphone, and afterwards you have filters and sound analyzing tools and so on to do the job. Yeah, and when I look to that, at least in my opinion, this is a good problem for me for a neuromorphic system. So, okay, we can discuss about this, since neuromorphic system, or the meaning of neuromorphic system, is quite broader nowadays. But for me, a neuromorphic system is a system which interacts with the environment, which learns from the environment. And there are two pillars, if you like. We have a sensor which do a feature extraction, which just sensing adaptively to the important facts, and you have a neural network like Daniele have explained it to us, for example, where logic and memory are combined. But important are here the feedback. Yeah? This, in biology, we see these efferent feedbacks which comes from the brain back and which can just adapt the sensing part here to some sense. So now, how we come back further, what is the major idea about the dynamics sensing here? And I already mentioned here the hair cells, which has a relatively important task or doing a good job in this point. And actually there is a model, or people think about the dynamics of these hair cells can be described as a critical oscillator. Means an oscillator which works at a critical point. And then the critical point sensitivity is relatively high. So mathematically what we have here is a Hopf oscillator which just are operating close to the bifurcation point. And when you go to this bifurcation point, when you have any control parameter, then you have a strong nonlinearity which leads to a high sensitivity. And this helps. Then with that, what you get is a high sensitivity and at the same time a nonlinear compressive amplification, which means, this is just here on the top, if you have a very small input signal, a very calm tone, then you get a higher amplification in the case when you have a loud tone. So you have a nonlinear amplification curve at this critical point. So now, this is a system we built up in principle, if you like, a single hair cell. It's a MEMS oscillator. This is a vibrometer measurement, which just show the actuation of the signal. So to look a little bit more in detail, what is this? So what we have are two parts. The first is a transducer, this vibrating part. This is a silicon beam with the integrated piezoresistive deflection, and we use a thermomechanical actuation mechanism. It's a beam-off effect in which we have different layers, which leads, when we heating locally, which leads to a bending and actuation of the things. Then we implement a feedback, a real-time feedback loop in which we take, well, it's a little bit perhaps for the people above, where we use a signal, what we're sensing here, the deflection signal, do a certain amplification, and feed it back to the actuation part. And we use a small offset to the signal. And with that, we design a critical oscillator, and this is actually what we measure. So if we use here a critical value for this feedback parameter, we actually see here this fingerprint of this Hopf bifurcation, the jump from a low sensing amplitude to a high sensing amplitude. This works without noise. So now what happens if we put noise on the system? Actually, this you see here. Here on the x-axis, you have the sound pressure amplitude, the loudness of the signal, and here you have the amplitude of our sensing signal. And when this A factor, the feedback factor, is low, we see a linear amplification. So as louder the tone is, as stronger is the amplification. Important, that's why I make it in red, is this active mode, we call this active nonlinear mode. When we go to the bifurcation or close to the bifurcation point, what we actually see is this nonlinear compressive amplification, that we see a stronger amplification at low sound pressures as at high sound pressures. And at the same time, we have a dynamical range. We can damp. So if we change this A factor, we can damp or amplify this. So in total, we have a dynamical range of 44 dB with a system. Normally, microphone don't have this. So now, this is a single hair cells. And of course, when we have a single hair cell and it works at a certain frequency, he can detect one frequency. What you like to detect is a certain bandwidth. So again, how the brain is doing this, the brain is doing this in a way that this is a rule of the basal membrane without going much in detail. It's in a technical sense, you can think about a FFT, perhaps, that different at different locations inside the cochlea. So this is what has been rolled up. I just not me, I take it here from the paper, linearize this. There are different parts in the cochlea which are sensitive to different frequencies. Yeah, so with this 3,000 hair cells, you have different frequencies, and perhaps I skip this. There are inner and outer hair cells, makes the things a little bit more difficult. So, and this is called tonotopy. So means depending yet on the frequency or on the spatial position, you can detect different frequency. And the idea is here how we can reach this by changing the geometry of our silicon beam of our cantilever. Yeah, so this is actually what we did here in simulations. We just changing thickness, size of this thing, to stabilize different resonance frequencies. Yeah, and here's the measurement for example, for 7 of this MEMS resonators, and you see you can cover with that a frequency range from 1,000 to 10,000 kilohertz. Yeah, and by the way, here this is one of each peak is clear now. It's one of our MEMS resonators, and here what you see in here, what is the dashed line is what you get with a normal microphone. Yeah, you see we have a higher quality factor and we have a much stronger amplitude. However, if you carefully look on it, there's of course a drawback in this concept. We have a high quality factor, means the spectral width, the bandwidth is very low. So actually the point is we are very sensitive at certain frequencies, but in between we're detecting really nothing or comparable with a normal microphone. The effect is only there at a certain frequency. So and now the question is how we can solve this problem. And there is one answer. I have to say this is also a topic in biology, and at least I not really figure out what is really now the case, how the ear is doing the job. So there are different theories, but nevertheless, one is tunability, so that we need at least a mechanism where we can shift during operation the peaks of this resonance frequency to a certain point to have a detection point here, or to detect also frequencies in between. And the idea we are following here is that we couple the cells. And here is one paper. This is actually when I started with the topic, this was one of the first papers we had. This was a theoretical calculations just by coupling 2 Hopf oscillators. And the main point is here, without going much into detail, if you are at the bifurcation point, you see the strong nonlinear amplification. When you are away from the bifurcation point, it will not work. However, if you couple them, you see a synchronization. You can tune the frequency of the oscillators, and even with parameters for the uncoupled, which are not close to the bifurcation point, which not show this amplification, they show during coupling amplification. So we have also at the same time a tuning to the bifurcation point just by coupling the devices. So means coupling leads to an increase in sensitivity, bandwidth, and frequency tuning, what they said. Okay. Motivated by this results, we just build it up in hardware. We're using 2 of our silicon beams. We have the self-feedback mechanism, as I explained you before, for both, and we make a cross-coupling. Yeah? We take the signal from one of the beams, put it to the others, and other way around. Yes. And what we see is now it's here not the feedback. Here's the coupling strength. Since when we increasing the coupling strength again to critical value, we again see this Hopf bifurcation of the system. Seems the theory is right, or let me say, we can implement it also in our system. Then this is a collaboration with colleagues from Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, Thomas Meurer's group. Of course, we have a lot of parameter space. We have now 2 feedbacks. We have the coupling coefficient. This is a huge parameter space. And actually what we first of all like to figure out, what are the parameter space and which kind of synchronization you get. We make a kind of bifurcation analysis. And actually, two points are here important. Of course, it not works when the frequencies are too far away. So a frequency difference of 200 hertz, we find out, for our system is reachable when the frequencies are detuned or the cantilevers are detuned by 200 hertz. Then this mechanism might work. And it depends, of course, strongly on the parameter. There are some parts here where we have a high sensitivity, where we can tune, where we can see here the synchronization, and we have also parameters where it really will not work. And what is interesting, however, if the frequencies are far away from each other, this is here one example, and we increase the coupling range, then perhaps we not can tune it, but what we observe is, this is here in the black curves, to explain it a little bit, this is the resonance, what you get for the uncoupled system, and if we're increasing now the coupling range, we come for a stronger coupling to the blue curves. Yeah? So we see a stronger response of the system, and also all the frequencies in between are stronger amplified. Yeah? So it means this is, in our opinion, a good trick, yeah, to solve the problem of very low bandwidth if you couple the systems. Yeah? And I show you results with 2. Now at the moment we're working with 4, 8 of them to couple them and look to this effect. So nonlinear amplification, synchronization, tuning to the bifurcation point, and an increased bandwidth is possible with this approach here. So with that, we talked to colleagues from Fraunhofer, IDMT, and they say, yeah, let's benchmark our microphone or fancy microphone with the best microphone we have in our lab. They call this measurement microphone. And here is from the measurement setup. And look, how good is it comparable to what is the standard in the world. And actually, the first point here, what I like to mention here in red is, here's the sound pressure level, is the measurement microphone, and here in blue is what we can reach with our microphone. So actually we become below this 20 hertz with this approach. So we are 20 dB. So we are able to just detecting very, very calm sounds. Yeah, and of course, MEMS microphones are on the market. Yeah, this is nothing really new. But if you compare it to standard MEMS microphones, your odors higher here. They are around 30 dB on the market. So we can have a good acoustic properties, and this explains all the scatters here. We have a dynamic range. A microphone has not a dynamic range. You cannot downregulating it. And this brings me to the second part a little bit, and we can increase this in somehow with the AI system with some speak recognition or sound recognition analysis. Yeah? And for that, and we had yesterday a talk on that, so far we have the sound, when you look in biology, we have the sensor input, and this is actually what I explained to you. We have the transconductance, we have the frequency decomposition, and with this nonlinearity. And what is very important, of course, at the same time is neural encoding. So how we encode then the signal into a neural signal. And actually, so far, what I explained you is just the first part. And yes, in the next 2-3 slides, I like to talk a little bit about this part, about the neural encoding. And actually, also this, we heard already yesterday. What happens when the hair cells are vibrating, then it changes a membrane potential, and this membrane potential is actually then encoded into neural spikes. And when you look on the spike patterns, actually what seems to be there is a rate coding, then you have different effects, you can have an offset, you can have some delay time, and adaptation means that the spike frequency rate is decreasing when the signal is constantly there. So, and to have this feature, we're developing an analog circuit. In principle, it's an integrate and fire circuit. And for the adaptation mechanisms, we're using, of course, our feedback parameter, which we can change then depending on the values of the input circuit. So, and here just to show that this circuitry is really working, if we now have a constant input tone on the signal or a constant input voltage, which comes out after our system, then we see we have here a certain spike coding, or when we change the amplitude, we have a spike rate coding, and you see also here the adaptation mechanism. So as longer the signal is going, as lower gets the spike rate. So, and here I show you a figure from a real neuron, and actually this is actually what you see also well there, that the spike count goes down when you have a constant turn both. And this dynamic adaptation is also possible to mimic with our circuitry, just to show here the example. So when the sound is on at the beginning, we have a higher amplitude, and this fade out here to a constant level, which of course is very helpfully in distinguish also very tiny differences in the tone, so we can equalize here the levels of the system. So now, actually, when you do it and we couple this different cells, what we can produce is a so-called cochleogram. Yeah, and I just copy here from one paper a standard picture. So you have the sound waves where you do the pre-processing in between. So I would say in a normal technology, I would say, or normal in this existing technology, these are the filters, amplification, and so on, the DSP. And actually what you can calculate is a so-called cochleogram. You have here the frequency, and here stands the time. Now it's a kind of the EFT, and with that we can describe here by auditory neurons some spike patterns out. Yeah, in our case, we bypass here all the filters by just using our artificial hair cell technique. So, and now to see, to benchmark it here also a little bit to learn, and these are very preliminary results. I show you just by the end how good it works. We're just comparing our MEMS cochlear data, but I have to say these are simulations, what we expect from our systems with acoustic pre-processing. It's a MFFC filter is a standard approach what auditory people using, and then we gave this to a speak digit recognition network. Yeah? So the speak digit recognition network is a memristor-based reservoir computing network. I would not like to go now in details. For those who doesn't know what is a memristor reservoir computing network, this is a kind of network. Let me say it in this sense here. And actually, what is the output? What is the accuracy? Actually, again, we gave signal-to-noise ratio. Here is a clean speech condition without noise, and here we're increasing noise level. We're using subway noise in this case. And actually, what you see is that in clean conditions, this guy can still outperform our MEMS cochlea. The recognition rate is a little bit higher. However, if we increase the signal-noise ratio to a certain point, here, for example, I pick out here 0, means noise has the same level as the signal, then we see the MEMS, this kind of the MEMS cochlea is a little bit it's more robust into understanding the sound signals. However, to be fair, when you compare it with the human ear, yeah, okay, at that point we have not perhaps 100% accuracy, but it's much, much more robust. So we can say it starts perhaps at -10 signal-to-noise ratio to decreasing. So there is, I say, still plenty room to improve the system a little bit more. So with this, I like to come to the conclusion of my talk. I hope to show you that this is a good way to use a neuromorphic approach to do this acoustic sensing. And yeah, here's some of the highlights. Variation of the sensitivity up to 44 dB through active operation. We have a fast and efficient feedback mechanisms. All can manufacture in, I not talk about this, but we manufacture this in a silicon technology, so it's standard technology compatible, and it's highly robust against tolerances and works in a wide operation regimes.